The reality is, where were we 10 years ago when the APC government came to power? I know they like pointing at Buhari as being the disaster that preceded this disaster. But the reality is that it's the same APC. There are persons within that government of Buhari that are inside this same government. Somebody like Kiyamo, for instance, of the 712 billion naira airport renovation budget. So they should say that the system is getting better. It is their right to say so. They are enjoying, their lives are getting better. The average Nigerian whose real income has evaporated will not say what they are saying. The real Nigerian who is spending his salary to fill a car tank. The difference between victims and citizens is the protection of the law. For the law to protect you, you must live in a place ruled by law. Nigeria is a place that is ungoverned by law. It is governed by the whims and caprices of small-minded men, such as the ones who took that girl and decided that she must go to Kirikiri for something not as grievous as had been done by two Agbaya. It's been to call what I see what it is, not what my oppressor would prefer that I call it. Bola Ahmed Tinubu did not come through a process governed by the free will of the people. No. A man announced the election result without a basis for announcement, no result from the states shown to anybody, and he blithely told everybody in the middle of the night, go to court. I will not speak to how...
Fellow Nigerians, I can assure you, the truth you are about to hear in this video, they are the truth that, powers that be, they don't want the world to know. They don't want Nigerians to know. I will not be surprised if Pablo Escobar and his gang don't go and pick up Dele Farotimi and arrest him after this interview. I beg you, in order for the world to hear this truth dissected in this video, please let me give you the thumbs up so that Facebook and YouTube can recommend it to others. I beg you, above all, share this video, please, in all your platforms. Thank you. Let's watch together now.
Is in a dire straits to a large extent, and you have put your life on the line a number of times, speaking truth to power and insisting that the truth must be told.
Perhaps the reason why it's possible for me to have done anything of value is because I do not see those things as being done by an outlier. Is what I expect of everybody who aspires to citizenship, because the Nigerian is definitely not a citizen. So I imagine that the least anyone who is conscious of their situation should do is to at least ensure that they don't go into the night quietly. Even lambs should cry.
Yes.
So I'm not doing anything that I don't expect the next person to do. These are very simple things. Just speak.
Yeah. Okay, let me start by highlighting some things. There's a lot of questions that we want to ask you today, and the first thing that came to my mind is, if we ask you the question, what's your thought about the state of the nation? You're likely to say a lot of things, but let me flip it and say to you that the people in government today, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's staff and his spokespeople, they've said very clearly, they listed a number of things. They said there's been economic reform, that the improvement in the area of petrol, that now we have a petrol that you can say, yes, is almost consistent in terms of the supply, that the price of that they're taking away what used to be the one that we described as criminal architecture that is around the subsidy regime, and then they talked about security, that the security architecture, they're working on improvement. that the soldiers are supposedly working. They mentioned infrastructure development. There is a long road from Lagos to Calabar that is there that they're working on. And then there is the man in Abuja who's also working seriously and consistently, launching new roads and commissioning areas within the state. So as far as the government is concerned, they are working. But is that your thoughts? Because in the midst of all the work of the government, there is still the people that are crying, we're hungry.
You know, when you ask this question, and you've rightly predicted that there is a lot to unpack. But there is this proverb I'm very, very fond of using, and it highlights the issue I need to address. And it deals with relativity. It says, what concern is it of the baboon if the chimpanzee has diabetes or even running stomach? It's not his business. They might look alike, but they are not the same. The government and the people within Tinubu's government and their beneficiaries, they should say what they are saying, since they consider Nigerians to be incapable of determining by themselves and have to be told whether they are hungry or not. The reality is, where were we 10 years ago when the APC government came to power? I know they like pointing at Buhari as being the disaster that preceded this disaster. But the reality is that it's the same APC. There are persons within that government of Buhari that are inside this same government. Somebody like Kiyamo, for instance, of the 712 billion naira airport renovation budget. So they should say that the system is getting better. It is their right to say so. They are enjoying, their lives are getting better. The average Nigerian whose real income has evaporated will not say what they are saying. The real Nigerian who is spending his salary to fill a car tank, a car that he knows he cannot replace by the time that car packs up because his salary is meaningless, his business devalued. The naira itself, the naira is so devalued that you will probably find more dollars in the Nigerian bank than the naira cash. That is how bad. They're talking about infrastructure development. You see, the problem with us is that we tend to look at issues superficially. A government supposedly serving the people unilaterally awarded the contract for a road to Calabar, coastal road to Calabar. Of all the things required by Nigeria, with almost 20 million children out of school, under the ages of 14, out of school, almost 20 million. That is the population of a lot of countries, both in Africa and in Europe. But we have 20 million brains that we can discard because all they need is to recruit more agberos, more terrorists, more headers, more bandits, more people who are incapable of questioning them even as they destroy the country. So it's okay. They don't need to fix that rot. They don't need to fix the rot in healthcare that has seen almost every doctor of note fled the country. There is absolutely no need whatsoever to take a look at critical infrastructures that have collapsed completely. But of course, we must build a road to Calabar, and people focused exclusively on the stealing that attended that contract, because if a contract did not go through due process, it is safe to say it is stealing, brazen-faced stealing. Now, there is an adjunct. In building that road, lands were created, and that was always the add-on that people didn't pay attention to. That road was used to grab people's land. Nobody is paying attention to that. The road was unnecessary. It was not required. There are other things that should take priority. Nobody is talking about that. So when they come out and they'll tell you about all the things that are working, it's working for them. But how much is the Nigerian paying in real cost for what they are saying? So they can be rebasing numbers and tweaking the numbers to make it look good. But have they made our pockets feel better? Can the average Nigerian go to the market and be able to feed reasonably well on their salaries? I doubt if up to 5% of those who earn salaries in this country live on their salaries.
Each time, especially when I speak with people in government, they ask me the same, they give me the same response. So let me give you their response. Are you saying that there is nothing good coming out of this government? Is there anything you can point to that is from this government? Because that's the question that they're asking me.
You know, I think it has now come to the point where I must thank God for the APC, for Tinubu particularly, and for how they have helped. I don't need to say much to show the average Nigerian the level of putrefaction that has now attended every layer of governance in this country. Because of them, it is easy to see the level of impunity that governs Nigeria. Aside from that capacity to show us how low governance can fall in Nigeria, there is nothing they have shown. It's not like they've been any worse than the Buhari regime in terms of policy choices. They were, at least they were, if nothing else, they were consistent in saying that they will build on the ruinous foundations of Buhari, and they've done that reasonably well. Nobody can take that away from them. But when it comes to the impact on the average Nigerian on the streets in their homes, this government has been ruinous. From the Plateau to the Benue Trough to the rainforest of southern Nigeria, Kwara, people are running away from villages. They are abandoning villages in Kwara. The insecurity that they are pointing at is not just that it's worsening, it's that it's spreading. It's spreading. Even within townships, within cities, even Lagos, Ibadan, you are having an upward swing in kidnapping. It's not just about Fulani kidnappers anymore, kidnapping for ransom and all of that. It's not about that anymore. It's become an industry on its own. People can't even walk around freely in cities and they are crowing and talking about how well they are doing. These are real issues that the average man on the street can answer. It's a pocketbook thing. If the thing is getting better, we would all know. It will show up in the price indexes. When we go to the market, we'll see how far our Naira can travel. The reality is that Naira has evaporated. Even banks are not having it.
Okay, so you painted a picture of where we are as a nation.
It is where we are.
It's clear to see that there are deep fractures in our systems and in our leadership. That brings me to something you wrote recently, a reflection on the death of former President Muhammadu Buhari. You insisted that he should have lived to witness the full measure of justice for what you described as the suffering inflicted on Nigerian people. In your view, what is the deeper purpose of such justice? Is it about retribution, accountability, or the moral duty of a nation to confront its past before it starts to look forward?
You know, because we've been in this mess for decades, what has happened is that Nigeria has created alternative narratives in place of truth. So we elevate villains and paint them as though they are men who have delivered value to society. Muhammadu Buhari pursued power assiduously 30 years after he came back into power. I don't believe in speaking ill of persons who can't defend themselves. It's not about speaking ill of the dead. If you've done ill when you were alive, I reserve the right to speak to your deeds after your demise. He's dead now. So what pains me is that a jury of his peers, fellow Nigerians, never found the opportunity, we were never offered the opportunity to confront him with his many crimes against Nigerians. The pinnacle of that crime, of those crimes, was the Lekki Toll Gate massacre. He was the president and the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. What they did is documented. A tribunal confirmed what was done. It is a travesty that even years after the fact, 5 years, almost 5 years now, we can't even say how many people died because government continues to deny the undeniable. In the face of all of the evidence, the government continues to deny it. That alone is scary, that we are in a country where those who are maintained from the public purse are denying the murder of citizens in broad daylight. It's not even the murder alone that has now been denied. The very humanity of those persons, it's almost like you erase them like they never existed. And there are precedents for that. It happened when Abacha was taken over in 93. It happened in Zaria with Buratai and the Shia. Was that Zaria or Kanfash? I can't even remember, somewhere in Kaduna State. And then it came in broad daylight and it happened right here in Lagos. That is on one hand. And then what happened in northern Nigeria? We're talking about an elite class. What is it about our country that you can point to and describe as being elite? Nothing. Nigeria, as big as we were, we just got whooped 4-0 by Sudan. That's half a country that was. Where are the football pitches that used to produce good footballers? The school sports system, what happened to it? Is that elite?
So when you look at the Falcons and the Tigress, what do you say to that in terms of...
How many of those people are Nigerian based? That's the beginning of the putrefaction, the disappearance of every infrastructure that ought to support the production of the kind of men and women that used to represent us in the past. Everybody who can escape escapes, and most of the time when you need to find talent to do things in the name of Nigeria, they go and bring people who don't even have Nigerian passports but have Nigerian parentage. So Nigeria has been emptied of potential to the point where they can't even find persons within the country. If they make it a condition that the players must play within the country, be born within the country, we'll probably not be able to field teams in a lot of sports.
Okay, we'll take a short break in just a second, but let me ask you, just recently there's been the incident of Kwam having an incident at the airport, and then there's the story of a young lady too who was on another airline that happened, and the entire nation has not stopped talking about it in the last few days. What will be your thoughts about the two incidents that seem similar, but yet the outcome are just so far away from each other?
Okay, I think there are actually 3 incidents, barely separated by weeks. The first was Oshiomhole carrying out his aluta at the airport. Nothing happened. FAN, NEMA, nobody said a word. He went back to the Senate. Kwam, there was enough sin in the public space. And frankly speaking, I think enough has been said as relates to the person. So I'm going to avoid talking to the person for now. And then there was Victoria. That too, unfortunately, a lot of that, even less salutary thing that people should have more brains than to be sharing, got into the public space. So whether we liked it or not, these things are in our faces. A lot of others have spoken to the incident, but I would like to talk to the systemic failure that the entire thing illustrates. I read Festus Keyamo this morning. I read his release, and it even deepened my angst in relation to the entire episode. Because every time the Nigerian elite is caught in a trap that is generally set for all, what then happens is that they must always find a way to open the cage so that that one escapes. But we must look to the issues. K1 got into a flight, at least was about to board, and he had a flask. The question to ask is this: would the British Prime Minister flying British Airways be able to carry a flask, whether it be water or alcohol? That's a different argument entirely. But would even the British Prime Minister be able to carry a flask into the BA flight if he wasn't flying private? He can't. There are VIPs all over the world, and I have zero problem with someone like Wasiu Ayinde being offered VIP treatment. He's deserving of it. But there is a difference between offering a man VIP treatment and subverting a system in pursuit of his personal comfort and preferences. And there is also something instructive about the man standing in front of a plane, seeking to stop that plane from flying. There was no airport security in sight. Nobody bundled him off. Bravo to that pilot. Yes, she broke aviation rules. In my own layman's view, I'm not an aviation expert. At least they said that she did that. And then they suspended her. But Kwamwan went on. And then they announced a 6-month ban. And 6-month ban has now been commuted to 1 month. And why? Because everybody shouted on account of the differential scale of justice in relation to Victoria and Comfort and Kwamwan. Why I mentioned Oshiomhole is to show you that these are the 3 that came into the public view. How many are we not seeing in the public view? The treatment of the 3, the disparities in their treatment, the extreme courtesy with which Oshiomhole was treated in spite of his infantile truancy, the way Kwamwan was treated in spite of what should be above him, or rather, shall I say, beneath him, and then the humanization of Comfort. It shows you how Nigeria deals with its people. So when I speak to the fact that you don't have citizenship in Nigeria and that Nigerians are victims and that impunity is the governing system in this country, it always seems so far-fetched. But I invite you to take a look at the tragic comedy that is playing out in our aviation industry and then tell me if I require any further proof of how impunity has destroyed this country, ensure that we have no standards. Even in the resolution of the mess, the impunity came out. Since when did Keyamo begin to speak on behalf of NEMA? FAN, who is responsible for airport security, obviously has multiple breakdown of their system. What is being done about that? Why would the world take us serious if we don't take ourselves serious?
On that note, we'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll continue this thought-provoking conversation with Dele Farotimi, exploring more of his insights on leadership, justice, and future of our nation. Do stay with us.
Is suggestive of a governor who is disconnected from the people to the point where instead of appealing to the people in order for them to vote him into power, he finds it easier to jump on the APC train so that once you don't need the people, you don't have to do anything for them. If the monies that are being spent on air travel and feeding had been spent on improving primary education in Osun, on improving the rural communities and providing them primary health care centers, those people would have come out to fight for him to ensure that the federal might of the APC would count for nothing. So the question you had as an adjunct to the first has actually been answered, because if that governor, as with the other ones all over the federation who are busy queuing up to join the failure of Tinubu's APC, they wouldn't do so if they were connected to the people. But they are disconnected from the people and they have to connect to the ultimate force of impunity in the land so that they might be returned to power whether the people want it or not. So it's not about the APC having achieved anything, but because the APC under Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not shy about deploying the force of impunity. See, a person has to have shame before they can self-censor themselves. The APC is completely shameless. He has no shame about being, none of them is ashamed of being called thieves. After all, the chairman of that party was a man caught on video with money being stuffed in Babariga. The politicians you see jumping into it, they are jumping into that party in order to protect the loot, to make sure that nobody carries them. Look at our friend Tambuwa. If Tambuwa did not have any skeleton in his cupboard, nobody will carry him now. Today I'm in my house. Why haven't they come to carry me that I stole money? But they went to carry Tambuwa. If Tambuwa will join the APC tomorrow like Oshiomhole told all of us in broad daylight, his sins will be forgiven. So what they are doing to Tambuwa, you can call it evangelizing. So they are evangelizing him. They are preaching the gospel of the APC to him. So when he accepts the gods of the APC, you find that the EFCC will suddenly forget his file, just like they forgot Akpabio's own, and just like they forgot those of each and every one who you find sat at the high table of the APC.
Okay, I'm lost for words now. I don't know where
It's
to
just the
start.
reality.
It seems like, yes, it is the reality. Well, still on the welfare of citizens of Nigeria.
We citizens, please. We don't have citizens. No,
we the people.
The least we can, no, just call us the victims of Nigeria.
Oh, we are the victims.
We are victims of Nigeria. People who are protected by law as citizens. The difference between victims and citizens is the protection of the law. For the law to protect you, you must live in a place ruled by law. Nigeria is a place that is ungoverned by law. It is governed by the whims and caprices of small-minded men, such as the ones who took that girl and decided that she must go to Kirikiri for something not as grievous as that been done by two Agbayas. Do you understand? That is the kind of country we live in. The Lord be damned. And if you doubted that, by the time Keyamo finished vibrating this morning, I'm sure nobody was left in any doubt. The supervising minister can speak over the FCA and the NCA and what do you call them? FAN. He could speak over NAMA. He could unilaterally reduce suspensions. He could unilaterally reduce bans. No due process, nothing. Because somebody somewhere has decreed that, okay, let the outcome be like this so that all this noise will go away. So in order for that noise to go away, they will do anything for it to go away, and it's not something that started today. So I'm not pinning it on Tinubu alone. Even Obasanjo that you will clap for and say he was the peak of our democratic experiment. How did Abacha's son leave prison in the Abiola, Kudirat Abiola murder case? He gave up money, and the Supreme Court promptly freed him. Is that the charge for murder? So it's not today that Nigeria has all, they walk to the answer when it's not convenient for them. They just do wuru to the answer and then everybody go home and say no more.
Okay, let's talk about the recent arrest and release of Omoyele Sowore once again. In your case, they came, some people said they were like Gestapo to your office to arrest you. In his case, he was asked to come and present himself, which he did. And the conversation has been showing that there is a lot of worry about the Nigerian policing.
You don't have a police, you have uniformed thugs. If you say, let me illustrate that, I'm sorry, it will come out. What happens is that I tend to cut to the chase. So let me break it down. In Yoruba language, we call police Olopa. Olopa means the person who is bearing the staff of office. The person who goes, if the king is sending his messenger to go and inform the townsfolk to do something or the other, he'll carry the king's staff of office and make the announcement in the name of the king. So essentially, the police is the representative of the state in relationships with citizens, right? But the police is a creation of law. And when it is not bound by law, it is no longer the police. The Nigerian police is not bound by law. The AG and the Inspector General of Police has outlived his time in office. He's an illegal IG. That is the argument that Yele has been making, and I guess that was what got under the IG skin. So he got under his skin and he has acted in the manner that every Nigerian big man would act. And how much bigger can you be than the Inspector General of Police? So you have the chief thug, instead of the chief police, because in the absence of laws to uphold, you only have impunity.
You're a lawyer, my dear brother.
I am very specific. I'm sorry. Let me.
When you call
I laid the foundation.
IG,
I laid the. No, I have a reason for
there
saying
will be a question
I laid
asked
the
as to the
foundation for
nomenclature.
saying so. Let me lay. I laid the foundation.
Yes.
To be a policeman,
Yes.
you had to be working in tandem with the law. Abi?
Yes.
I am saying to you that Egbetokun is no longer a policeman. That is the reality. He is in office because Tinubu wants him in that office.
The person you call Tinubu is still the president of the Federal Republic
Not
of Nigeria.
because my vote got him there. It's not. No, see,
Yes.
I think there was a time I was asked the question. You were actually the one who asked the question, is Tinubu my president? And I answered you very clearly. I am trained as a lawyer. I am not an anarchist. Whether I like the idea or not, whether I accept the process that threw him up or not, the reality is that today, Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the de jure president of Nigeria. Whether I like it or not, that is the person our system, imperfect, flawed, corrupt, prone to impunity as it is, has thrown up as our president. But beyond that, I retain the right as a conscious being to call what I see what it is, not what my oppressor would prefer that I call it. Bola Ahmed Tinubu did not come through a process governed by the free will of the people. No. A man announced the election result without a basis for announcement, no result from the states shown to anybody, and he blithely told everybody in the middle of the night, go to court. I will not speak to how good or bad that judiciary is. Today is not the need. We've said enough. I've written on that. I've said enough. The book I wrote on the judiciary was ready before the Presidential Election Tribunal delivered its result. But I deliberately delayed it because I didn't want that book politicized. I did not want it to seem as if I was scandalizing the judiciary for political reasons. And the book was not about persons, it's about the system. So he is the president, let's leave it at that. But when it now comes to the actions that he has retained Egbetokun in office outside the dictate of law is beyond argument. The
law says he has the right to
do
choose
what?
whoever becomes the
within a
president.
prescribed. If the law gives you the power to do something, that's the beauty of the law. The law gives you a power and then it sets out the limits of that power and how that power should be used. Egbetokun in office is an abuse of power. But Yele did nothing wrong. It is the thin skin of the Inspector General that led them into the error of arresting him over what? If there is any substance to this, if you have crimes that you want to charge persons with, there are proper ways of doing things. Even if you want to pursue a vendetta, at least do so looking like you are doing the dictate of the law, not like you are just chasing after a man because he's constantly calling you out for being in office illegally.
Okay, well, we'll have to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll just do the final conversation.